Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. By the way, if you see me like looking off camera to the left, I've got my sister on FaceTime because I'm a baby and I get too scared to do these by myself and I get too nervous, so that's why. Spooky season has just arrived, so I thought I'd show you what's on my spooky/autumnal TBR. Now, most of these books are going to be gothic, dark, mystery, thriller. Because I'm a mood reader, I've also included some like romance, contemporary fiction, just as like sort of palette cleansers between all the dark, gothic, scary vibes. This is a big stack, so if it falls, I'm really sorry. I'm going to try and keep it up here, but I don't think I can. First is Belladonna by Adeline Grace, and I know I am so far behind on this because I think all the books are now out. I've just been saving it for the perfect time and then I've just never got around to it and I forgot about it, and it's been on my TBR cart for ages. Towards the end of the year, I will read it. I follow someone on TikTok called Amy. We have very similar tastes and she absolutely loves this series, so I just know that I probably will like this as well. It's about, I actually don't know what it's about. I don't really like to read the backs of books because I like to go in them as blind as possible because I feel like it's a bit of a spoiler. I just want to know the sort of general vibe and then I'm like, okay, I'll go into it. But this book on the back says, "Your name is no curse, little bird. I just like the taste of it. Orphaned as a child, Signa Farrow has been raised by a string of guardians, each more interested in her wealth than her well-being, and each has met an untimely end. Her only remaining relatives are the elusive Hawthorns, an eccentric family living at Thorn Grove, an estate both glittering and gloomy." I'm not going to read the rest because I don't want to spoil it for myself, but already it sounds amazing. Next up is one of the first palette cleansers that I'm going to be including in this TBR. I've had it for ages. It's The Cat Who Saved Books by Suzuki Natsukawa. I hope I'm saying that correctly. As far as I'm aware, it's about someone who owns a secondhand bookshop, and a cat, the ginger tabby cat on the front, comes and asks for help for a mission. That's all I know. It sounds really cute. It's really small, and I think it's just perfect for cozy season. Next is a book I picked up last year at Codex Books in Cirencester. I love that shop. It's absolutely amazing. They have so many good, like such a good selection of fantasy and sci-fi, and I think that's all they really do. They do fantasy, sci-fi, and graphic novels, and some like sort of games and D&D stuff. It's amazing in there. But it's Ink Blood Sister Scribe by Emma Torres. I hope I'm saying that correctly as well. And on the back it just says, "Two sisters tasked with guarding a library of magical but deadly books, a shadowy organisation that will risk anything to possess them, even murder." A magic library? Sign me up instantly. Can't wait to read this. I don't know why I haven't picked this up sooner, but it sounds amazing. The book looks amazing and I can't wait. Next up is one that I picked up from my local independent bookshop last week. It's the only one I've let myself buy in a long time. Actually, that's a lie. I've bought like 5 in the last month. This one's called You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight, and it's by Kaylin Barron. She also wrote Cinderella is Dead. This is giving very much like 80s slasher camp vibes. I know it's set in a camp and I know it's about the final girl, so I can't wait. It sounds really spooky and it's just perfect to curl up with. Hopefully we'll have a storm soon and I can just curl up with this because it looks really small. Well, it is really small, but yeah, I can't wait. Next up is a reread. The first time I read this was years and years ago when I was in college, I think. I'm not going to say how many years ago that was. I'm currently already reading it, but it's Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I love this book. It's my favourite classic in the world. Absolutely love it. Everyone should read it. And I'm currently, well, not that far into it. I've just read the introduction and the first chapter. Already loving it. Yeah, it's the perfect cozy, spooky classic to curl up with. I don't know if you've seen, but Emerald Fennell is doing a film. I loved Saltburn. Absolutely loved it. It was one of my favourite films I've watched this year. Was it this year or last year? I can't remember. Either way, I absolutely loved it. But I believe that she's made, if it's true, I'm turning into one of those old people who believe everything they hear on Facebook because it was on TikTok. And she'd cast Margot Robbie as Kathy and Jacob Elordi as Heathcliff, which is just barbaric because Heathcliff is a person of colour. And as far as I'm aware, Jacob Elordi is not. And I heard someone say that they both have iPhone faces, which is the perfect explanation, because I feel like if you're going to be in an Emily Bronte novel, or like if it's being brought to life, I don't want someone who looks like an Instagram model. I don't know, like maybe the girl who played Lady Jane, or like a Keira Knightley type, like the people from Pride and Prejudice. That's the vibe I'm wanting. But I don't know. I know she does these weird remakes and retellings, so I guess I'll just have to wait and see. Next is Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. I got this, I think, with Illumicrate, my monthly box subscription, and I mean, it's amazing. Absolutely stunning. And I know it's like a haunted sort of house vibe. On the back it says, "I should be scared. There are stories about Starling House, the kind people only tell at night, half whispered under the hum of the porch light. But in the dream, I don't hesitate. In the dream, I'm home." It sounds amazing. I've heard nothing but good things actually about this book, and I can't wait to get into it. I'm actually thinking this is probably going to be one of the first books that I pick up, because it doesn't actually look that big. I know it's a hardback, but it feels and looks quite thin, so this is probably one of the first ones I will reach for. Next is another palette cleanser. I was kindly gifted this from Penguin, and it's called Primetime Romance by Kate Robb. And I'm not sure if anyone has seen the film Pleasantville. It came out in the late 90s with Reese Witherspoon and Tobey Maguire. They got trapped into a TV program that they watched, and it was such a good film. I remember watching it with my sisters. It was amazing, and I know my sister wants to read this also, so after I've read it, I'll probably send it to her. Shout out to Sarah. She's actually the one on FaceTime to me now. But yeah, it's basically, is love on the small screen better than the real thing? Bryn's happy ending has gone up in flames. She's newly divorced and living with a roommate, Josh. We hate that name, but I'll allow it. Well, actually, I won't. I'll just probably change it in my head. At least she's got Carson's Cove to binge, her beloved 90s teenage soap. So when a birthday cake shows up on her and Josh's doorstep, wait, we're going to change that. What should we change it to? We'll change it to Ben. My boyfriend's name, Ben. So actually, no, because do I want to read Ben falling in love with another woman? Actually, I picture myself as the main character anyways. Yeah, it's fine. So when a birthday cake shows up on her and Ben's doorstep, Bryn makes a wish for her happily ever after. The next morning, she doesn't wake up in her apartment. She's in Carson's Cove, and Ben is there too. I feel really bad that this woman's wrote a whole story and it's Josh, and I'm changing it to Ben. It is Josh, guys. I am just changing it to Ben because I had an ex called Josh and I hate him. My whole family does. Except they're not Bryn and Ben. They're the sweetheart and the bad boy. Will they stick to the script, or will real love change the story forever? I love it. It's like sort of magical and mystical and it's got like a mystery to it, I believe. I think it's also perfect for this season, but it's also like a nice little palette cleanser. Next up is the OG sci-fi, which is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. If anyone tells you otherwise, tell them to argue with the wall, because she is the creator of sci-fi. You can't tell me any differently. But everyone knows it. It's Frankenstein. I can't believe I haven't read it. That is a crime. And I can't wait to read it, because women in STEM and all that. And it's the Penguin cloth bound cover, which is absolutely stunning, and it's beautiful. I just hope I don't muck it up. Another one I can't wait to read is Your Blood, My Bones by Kelly Andrew. It sounds quite gory and really quite scary, so if you do want to read this, I would suggest double checking trigger warnings and content warnings. This is another one I got in my Owl Crate monthly box subscription, and it's on the back it says, "You are the earth and the earth is in your blood." And it's basically about a woman who her parents have just died, and she now owns the estate and the property. She wants to burn it to the ground, but she does a last sweep of the house, and in the basement she finds her childhood best friend chained up and practically dead. And she then finds out that her family have been ritualistically sacrificing this boy, I think every year, I want to say, to protect the estate from the dark forces in the forest that surround the property. The only way he can get out of this sort of cycle is to end the family line, which is her, and she also obviously needs his help to keep out the dark forces. So they sort of reluctantly work together. Neither of them can trust each other. It sounds really super dark and really scary, which is right up my alley, but I would suggest double checking content warnings before jumping into this one. This sounds really good. It also came up as a recommendation because I loved My Throat, an Open Grave by Tori Bovolino. I absolutely adore it. I will sing about that book forever and ever. You all need to read it. So when I saw that this was recommended and I was already sent it by Owl Crate, I bought it. I was like, perfect, it's a sign. This book I bought from the American Amazon because I preferred the American cover, and I just think the sprayed edges and the cover is absolutely stunning. And it's a new release, a debut book. and it's called Immortal Dark by Tigest Germa. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And I know it's about vampires, a university. It's very dark. It's gothic. It says on the back, entirely irresistible, immortal dark tits the best parts of vampire lore and brings the undying violent enmity to full throttle. You won't be able to look away. And that's a quote from Chloe Gong. And then on the inside it says, a lost heiress, a soulless vampire, a secret drenched in blood. Like, look at the end papers. It's stunning. I've heard nothing but good things about this book, so I'm actually really, really excited. So this will also be one of the first ones that I do grab this spooky season. Hopefully, again, there'll be some storms and rain come in and I can curl up and read this book. Another palette cleanser book, The Lantern of Lost Memories by Sanaka Hiragi. And I got sent this earlier this year and it came out in August. It sounds absolutely amazing. I love a good translated book with a little cat on the front. So cute, and they're really short and they're always so good. On the back it says, one photograph, one treasured memory, one chance to go back. I remember also reading this and thinking my sister would love this, and I know that she's already asked to borrow this one as well. So I'm going to have to hurry up and read this so she can also read it this autumn season. There's a photography studio in the mountains between this world and the next, and then someone comes along and they get to choose a photograph from each year of their life to be placed in a Japanese lantern. Once complete, it will be set spinning and their life will flash before their eyes, guiding them to another world. But like our most thumbed over photographs, our treasured memories fade with age, so each visitor has the chance to choose one day to return to and photograph again. And then it says, extraordinarily moving and wise, The Lantern of Lost Memories is a beautiful Japanese tale about the people that make us and the moments that change us. How amazing does that sound? I mean, it's the most perfect, cozy little autumn read. Okay, next, I am a bit scared about reading this one, and it's Gothicana by Rune Inks. And it's only because it sounds very similar to The Coven by Harper L. Woods, and I didn't really like that book. Well, I did like it, but in the way of, was it good? No. Will I read the second book? Yes. That's how I'm sort of feeling towards this book. And it's also a university, and I'm guessing it's a professor-student relationship. It's gothic. I'm just hoping, because this book feels a bit thicker than The Coven. It does, it gives us similar vibes, but The Coven felt a lot thinner. It wasn't that long. This feels a lot thicker. Hopefully that means there's a bit more world building, a bit more time to get into the plot than it just being 100% on the romance. There's nothing wrong with that. I just, for me, love a bit more substance. Hopefully this delivers that. I have heard really good things from people that I trust. Yeah, it basically says poetic, eerie, and beautiful. Hopefully that is the case for me. So I'm kind of already on the fence, but hopefully it surprises me. This is one of the books that I'm most excited to get to this spooky season because it's by one of my favourite authors. I've only ever read one of her books. For me to say that she's one of my favourite authors is wild, but it's true. Her writing is just amazing. And it's Tori Bovolino's Not Good for Maidens. I didn't like the cover because it has a big moth on it, and I'm terrified of moths, but it sounds amazing. It also sounds very labyrinthy, like her other book, My Throat on Open Grave. That's like Labyrinth, David Bowie one, meets Ethel Cain. That's the vibe in that book, and this also sounds very labyrinthy. There's a goblin market. Her teenage aunt is kidnapped and taken to the goblin market, and she has 3 days to find her, and there's loads of like complications, and it's very dark and she doesn't know what to do, and it sounds really fun and it sounds amazing. She also has another one that I'm hoping to get to as well. If I don't, I'm not going to be that upset, but that one's called The Devil Makes Three. That sounds a bit more dark, but I thought because there's quite a few dark books in here already, I'd like a bit of a lighter one. And it sounds really good. This is also another palette cleanser. It's still on theme, I think. And it's a Romeo and Juliet untelling. It's not a retelling, it's an untelling. And it says, this is not a love story, and it's Fair Rosaline by Natasha Solomons. On the back, it says, will she save Juliet from her Romeo? The first time Romeo Montague sees young Rosaline Capulet, he falls instantly in love. Rosaline, headstrong and independent, is unsure of Romeo's attentions, but this handsome and charming stranger offers her the chance of a different life. Soon, though, Rosaline begins to doubt all that Romeo has told her. She breaks off the match, only for Romeo's gaze to turn towards her cousin, 13-year-old Juliet. Gradually, Rosaline realises that it is not only Juliet's reputation at stake, but her life. On the back, there's two of my favourite authors that I trust. Jennifer Saint says it's irresistible, and Elodie Harper says it's spellbinding. So if they're saying that, I've got to trust them. I was also gifted this one by Bonnier Books. So thank you. I'm going to get around to it this autumn. It sounds absolutely amazing. This is also another one that my sister wants me to send to her. I'm going to have to hurry up and read this one as well. So next I've got two from the same author. She's one of my favourite authors. It's V.E. Schwab and it's called Vicious. I've seen a lot of people talking about this. Apparently it's absolutely amazing. It's about two guys start out in college as college roommates. They make a big discovery that people like can obtain superpowers. Victor then goes to prison. He breaks out of prison to find his old friend, now four. I don't really want to go into it knowing a lot, but I'm guessing they're rivals. Superheroes, supervillain tropes. On the back anyway, it says Schwab gathers all the superheroes / supervillain tropes and turns them on their sundry heads. I could not put it down. Sounds amazing. I love all her books. So the next one by V.E. Schwab is The Near Witch. This sounds really, really spooky. On the back it says, the Near Witch is only an old story told to frighten children. If the wind calls at night, you must not listen. The wind is lonely and always looking for company. There are no strangers in the town of Near. And then apparently this young girl sees a little boy at night out on the lake's edge. I mean, what's not creepy about that? It sounds really scary and it sounds right up my alley and it sounds perfect for spooky season. So this is the last palette cleanser book on my TBR and you've guessed it, it's another translated book with a cat on the front and it's Days at the Morisaki bookshop. I was sent this last year. I'm only just getting around to reading it. It's by Satoshi Yagisawa, a tale of families, love, new beginnings and the comfort that can be found in books. Perfect. Absolutely perfect for this season and it's going to be the perfect palette cleanser because it's short and it sounds amazing. I've heard nothing but good things about this series and it's Malice by John Gwynne. I'm just worried because I haven't read a book by a man in a long, long time, but I've heard it's actually really good and he doesn't sexualize women in his fantasy books. Not all male fantasy authors do, but quite a few do, and it is very tiring. I don't want to have to read that, but apparently this is actually really good. It's like an epic fantasy, basically like a classic epic fantasy book, and I hope I like it because I've got all of his books, so we will see. This book I also got from my Owl Crate monthly box subscription and it's called Castle of the Cursed by Romina Garber. I don't really know what it is about, but it's stunning. Like the sprayed edges and the cover, it's absolutely amazing. Let's have a look under the dust jacket. Oh my god, look at that. That's so pretty. What is it? What's it about? We are impossible and that proves anything is possible. Only when you sacrifice everything will you have nothing to lose. Okay. It's basically like a murder mystery fantasy. Castle of the Cursed is a delicious and dark gothic romance filled with twists and turns that will keep you guessing until the very end. I mean, that sounds perfect, right? I'm just going to leave that off because I can't be bothered to put it all back together. Okay, we're down to the last two now, I promise. Second to last, the first book in the Zodiac Academy series. This is The Awakening and it's by Caroline Peckham, Suzanne Valenti. I don't know why I'm telling you much about this book because you guys probably already know about it. I think it's a school and it's Zodiac themed powers. I've heard you have to get to like book 3 until you're obsessed with it, which I'm scared for. My cousin bought me this like nearly 2-3 years ago, so I'm sorry, Lauren, that I haven't got around to reading it yet. I've got the first 4 books. I hope I like it because each book costs like £20. Hopefully it's good. I am trusting you all when you say that power through book 1 and 2 and then 3 it's got your claws in you and you can't stop. If you are lying to me, I want a written apology. Last but certainly not least is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I needed a dark academia book and this one obviously had to make the list. I haven't read it yet. That is a crime. I was gifted this by a fellow bookstagrammer called John. I think I'll put his @ somewhere on the screen, so thank you. We did like a little book swap. I found a lot of like old original Dune hardback copies in the charity shops. I put it on my story and said, oh, should I go back and get them? And he messaged and said, yes, I would buy those. So I said, okay, I'll just buy them and send them to you. I did, and he then, to thank me, bought me this off my Amazon wish list. Bless him. He didn't have to. And I'm actually really thankful because I've heard nothing but good things about this book. Dark academia, not so much fantasy. Like, I think the fantasy and the magic is very, very little, but I've heard that the magic in this book is so unique and so amazing. And obviously it's an R.F. Kuang book, so it's gonna probably make me cry or it's gonna emotionally scar me, and I cannot wait for that. So yeah, I can't wait to read this, and hopefully I do get to read this because it's been on my TBR for ages. He bought me this nearly 3 years ago now, and that's terrible. That's a bad friend of me, isn't it? So I promise. Actually, I'm not going to promise just in case. I take that back. And that's everything. Probably not everything on my spooky TBR, because like I said, I am a mood reader and I'll probably buy books. I will buy books because me and my sister are going to Cirencester next weekend together, and we will be going into all the charity shops and Waterstones, so I will be buying books. Hopefully I will get through at least half, which is around 10 books. Autumn's a long season, so technically I probably will be able to read this, but winter's also very similar and dark and gloomy, so I'm going to count that as well. I make my own rules. I can do whatever I want within reason, but I will be keeping this video to keep me accountable. Kind of. That's everything. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully it won't be a year and a half again until I post. Bye!